Welcome back, everyone. I have here with me an amazing artist, LustSickPuppy. Is perhaps described best as a rapper and producer, wielding maniacal electronics, but that doesn't quite get the full point across. LustSickPuppy takes their love of rap, but adds a punk energy, often shouting the lyrics instead of coolly delivering them. Blending that with high octane jungle and other club style beats, Lustig Puppy often ends up injecting even higher doses of adrenaline than the forebears. Lustig Puppy, thank you for joining us. How you doing?
Hi, I'm pretty good, especially after that amazing introduction.
I'm glad.
Yeah,
I was a bit worried for a second there because I'm like I have to do it justice.
thank you.
Of course. So you're going to be performing right after this. How you
hmm
feeling?
I'm always like a little nervous before a show, but I'm still like super excited every time too. So I'm excited.
Right. So is this your first time performing in Ottawa or?
This is my second time performing
Mhm.
in Ottawa. I was here over the summer and there was like 10 people here. Shout out to those 10 people,
Shout out.
but I'm excited to be here at Peak just because there seems to be a pretty good crowd out there. So I'm excited to go see what that looks like.
That's great. And I'm sure they will not disappoint. I've been to Peak as a, well, not here doing interviews, but in the crowd. And I've always felt like they have really good energy. So I hope they can transmit some of that energy when you get on the stage tonight.
Sick.
Okay, so when I was looking you up, listening to some of the music, I want to say you have a raw sound. Like especially with the blend when you blend rap and punk, like it's energetic, it's fun. So I'm wondering, where is that rawness and untamable energy from?
I mean, I guess I just was like a really angry, volatile kid growing up, and that kind of just stuck with me. I'm an angsty adult, which is like kind of weird as an adult to be angsty, but I think it's also just like I've tried to make music that was about other subjects and I still will, but it's also like I look outside and I look at the world around me and I just have to like come back to reality a little bit and it just makes me angry. So that's where that energy typically comes from.
So a way of channeling that anger into something, let's say, productive.
For sure.
Hmm.
Definitely. When I first like started to produce, it was like more chaotic than it is now, and it was definitely an outlet for me to just kind of get everything I couldn't really say just out of me, and then it became like a music thing that really had no intention of being anything like this, but just eventually evolved into this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about it being what it is now?
I'm definitely like I definitely feel very blessed and very grateful for it to have been able to reach people at all. I'm happy that something that I went through on a more personal level can reach people on a personal level too, even if like some of the subject matter is things I wish that people couldn't relate to me about. I'm just happy that it can help someone get through their day, to be honest. And I think it also just kind of serves as a like a jolt of energy to what I think is a bit of a distraction to everything else.
Yeah, like sort of like you said, art as escapism. At the same time, it's it's conveying a message. So it's that perfect combination that I usually like when artists do. So
For
that's
sure.
that's really dope. So congratulations on your debut album,
Thank you.
Carousel From Hell. That's a sick name, by the way.
Thank you.
So tell us a bit about that. What is this work trying to say?
I think, this album was being worked on during like multiple phases of my life where my world was very small and kind of like ever changing and spinning and just like being thrown around and around. So that's kind of like the general definition of the title. But also I think it's just like a representation of like how things kind of consist on a cycle and how if you don't break those cycles, they'll continue to be there no matter what you do. And that is a little bit of like what the process of making it was like. It's like, oh, I'm like working on these songs like nonstop, nonstop, nonstop. And then also kind of like talking about these subject matters like nonstop. And it kind of becomes this like echo chamber of trauma that you like don't really get a chance to escape from. And so that is like the general nature of the project, just how, you know, you can really get consumed by your emotions if you continue to like stay on that ride forever, you know.
Hmm. No, for sure. And unlearning and working through trauma is such a necessary but also daunting and all consuming work to do. So how do you navigate that, making music about it, sitting with it, because when you doing the work you spend a lot of time with it, and making sure that you it doesn't engulf you.
Well, I'm a little older now, you know, and so I feel like I've had time to like reflect, when before I think I just had time to feel and not reflect. And I think it's just like you just got to go to therapy, you know, and you have to like really kind of face all the things that are holding you back in life. Um and like learn forgiveness or just continue to be on the cycles that you're always on, you know.
That is such great advice for you who's watching at home. But no, that's great. That's beautiful. So I asked the artists I talked to before this question, do you have a favorite work on this album?
I have a few.
Okay, let's hear them.
I think X's is a really good song. In terms of production, I love my song Blister just because I think what it was the most challenging to make and then almost didn't make it on the project at all until my like partner convinced me to put it on there. And so it was kind of just like a personal victory to have gotten it done. It also like takes like a lot of influence from one of my favorite bands, System of a Down, and to be able to make something that I feel like is worthy of such a comparison, because I typically don't really like comparisons, but if someone's like, oh, this reminds me of this band, I'm like, okay, cool, like I accept that.
Hmm.
So those are two favorites. I like American Healthcare just because I think it's the subject matter is very like relevant to everything that goes on in America. I like all of them. I don't know.
No, you're supposed to. It's your work. It's your baby. Who are your musical influences?
There's a bunch. I would say there's not necessarily one direct influence, is like an overarching theme.
Hmm.
And like I grew up like a musical theater kid, and I've been told that my music is very theatrical. So I think in general, like the theater is like my main inspiration for my music.
Mm. So, I've not seen you perform before, but based on that, I'm imagining just not just you singing, but a performance, a show. I'm imagining attention to detail, just making sure everything connects. Cohesion is kind of what I'm picturing when you say theatrical.
I think, you know, once I get like a super fat bag, like then I could really put on a like a true performance, like stage set design, all of that good
Hmm.
stuff. But when I'm producing, I'm definitely trying to like tell a story and convey a message and invoke an emotion. That's all I really am ever trying to do, is just like invoke a feeling in people, like regardless of whatever the subject matter is. When I'm producing, I really just want it to be felt in the production. And I mean, it's definitely a blend of different genres, but it's easy to be like, oh yeah, like this person inspired me, this artist inspired me, which is true, you know. Like there's always artists I'm gonna look up to, like Hype Williams, like Missy Elliott, like people of that caliber. But I think it's really like the feeling that is invoked from the music is like very like jazzy and very like theatrical, you know.
I love that. So tonight's performance, how do you prepare for a show like this?
I definitely just like I freak out if I'm being super honest. I
Yeah.
I feel like I don't really ever like get into the mindset of like calm. I'm just like, okay, like just like do it afraid, you know. And like I don't know, like it's hard. I do vocal warm-ups, you know. It's like I never
Hmm.
know what to expect before I go out on a stage, and so I kind of just like that feeling because it just means that each show is going to be unique to
Hmm.
whatever is happening that day.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Um, in terms of songs, what can we expect to hear tonight? We're gonna hear some songs from the album, new things. What's happening? What's your set list looking like?
It's definitely a lot of the album. I'm gonna be playing this album for a bit now.
Mm-hmm.
And then some songs from my last EP. There's no new tracks in there currently, but there are new tracks on the way.
Okay, you hear that? New tracks on the way from LustSickPuppy. That's great. That's great. That's really amazing to hear. In terms of just you doing both rapping and producing, is there a difference between the two? Just rapping and producing? Because I'm assuming you also produce the songs that you put out. Like, what's that work like doing it both as a producer and as a rapper?
It's hard. I think that they are both their own very specific skill sets, and I think that there are people who like are masters of each. I don't think I'm a master of either. I think I just like to do what I like to do, and I love producing. A lot of the reason why I put vocals over my tracks just so that other people can understand what I'm trying to say. But when I am producing, I feel like that is what I had to say.
Mhm.
I spend more time producing a beat than I do writing a song, if I'm being honest.
Wow, that's interesting. And this is the amazing part about talking to artists about the craft and the process of it. Because just you saying the amount of effort and time you put into producing the track before you put the word is absolutely amazing. Like I don't know what I was thinking, but I just never thought of that.
I mean, they're both like very specific skill sets,
Hmm.
and I spent a lot of time like really trying to get good at producing because I wanted to be known more as a producer than a vocalist. Because I think, especially when you see a lot of black femmes in the industry, whatever, they like always have a DJ or they have a producer and don't really get the credit for their artistry. And I have so much respect for like MCs. I think it's like a skill that you need to have. And I also have respect for producers and I wanted to have respect for both. So I decided to get really, really good at producing so that people couldn't say like, oh yeah, Lessig Puppy is like a good like vocalist, but like their producer is so much better. It's like, well, actually I did both. So
I love that. That is sick to say. Yep, both comes to me. That's great. So with tonight's performance, and as you mentioned before, every show is unique. You don't really go in with an expectations. But if you were to what would you be looking for in a crowd? Like, do you look for something when you step on the stage, or do you just let the music do its thing and the crowd follows?
oh man, I mean, it's always an energy exchange, especially because the music is so loud and chaotic that when you just have like a crowd of people staring back up at you, it kind of sucks and it feels like you're really working for it. I've had like people like go batshit crazy, which is what I always want people to do. I just want people to like feel it, but if they don't connect with it, that's totally fine, whatever. But I definitely want it to be like an exchange of energy, like we are in this moment together, like feeling what's happening in the room right now versus like just being stared at and observed.
Mm-hmm.
But I also understand because especially people who've never seen me perform before, like some of the people who see me perform are like really young. And some of what I do is like, I guess, kind of scary. Sometimes the way I perform, the way I look kind of scary. So I can understand why people would be like just staring and just like
Mm-hmm.
taking it all in.
Yeah, it's maybe that feeling of unfamiliarity, not being familiar with the sound, and that could just also be a factor. Is that something you think about though? Just your sound not being familiar, or let's say mainstream, for lack of a better word, to some people when you're creating.
No, I do not care.
That is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's never like really the thought process because
Mhm,
when I started doing this, it wasn't for fans and it wasn't for a career and for any of it, how it like spiraled into what it is now. It was really for me. And like I said, I just feel very like blessed and grateful to even like have people like it in the first place. And so I can't really then start making things for people when that wasn't the original intent in the first place.
thank you. So my last question is just a fun one that I like to ask in the end. Um, when people hear "Lost Sick Puppy," what is one thing that comes to mind?
I don't know. I think you gotta ask them. I really don't know. I don't think people really know what to expect when they hear it.
Mm-hmm.
it's such a it's a title that makes you like, I guess, come to assumptions because of the name. Like, it's a play on lovesick puppy, so it's like, oh, lovesick, it must be like very sexual in nature, and in some ways it is, and in some ways it's not. Sometimes it's like the complete opposite of that. I think it's one of those things that you truly have to experience for yourself.
You have to experience it for yourself. Well, thank you. This has been
Thank
lovely.
you.
Good luck. I'm sure you won't need it on your performance. If you are on the grounds tonight, please make sure to see Lost Sick Puppy. It's going to be a chaotic, fun, energetic, raw show. You don't want to miss it. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
It was such a pleasure. We will be back very soon. Thanks again for tuning in.